being a Northwest guy is you're raised in a batting cage, you're raised in an indoor facility, you're taking ground balls off of, you know how to work in limited space.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know I'm biased because I'm a Northwest guy, but I will take a Northwest guy over somebody from another area any day of the week because I just think they're tougher. I just think they're tougher guys.
I think that's one of the best things about baseball is it still is a way that you can really develop toughness and develop, loyalty and all those kinds of things that we want out of young men in particular.
Welcome to the Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter Podcast, where we highlight all of the great coaches of the Pacific Northwest. Now, here are your hosts, Eric Sorensen, Jason Jarrett, and Kelly Gow.
Hey, Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter fans, welcome back to your next episode of the Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter Podcast. I'm Eric Sorensen, going to be joined by Jason Jarrett and Kelly Gow here any minute now, and we are all fresh off our weekend in Ellensburg, Washington for the Washington State Baseball Coaches Association. It was so good to see everybody and the people that we met in person. If I didn't get a chance to meet you, I apologize. Next time I want to meet everybody. That was such a fun weekend. A lot of great speakers, a lot of great content, and I'm excited to have conversations with people. And there was a lot of reoccurring themes as how the championship programs run everything. I know Saturday in the field house at Central Washington University, big thanks to them for letting us rent that out for the morning and getting to see live demonstrations of everything that was on the docket, man. It was awesome. And getting to see those guys work with some kids, it was a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyable. A lot of great conversation. I was sad to see it was over, but that's, the perks of our clinic is we get to the point and it's short and sweet and you get home to family. But thank you to everybody that showed up and came to the clinic. It was great to see everybody, reconnect with everybody that's been there for all 3 years. That was a lot of fun. So we are back. We did a couple live episodes. We had some scheduling things happen. So the live are fun, and I think that's probably something that we're going to go to in the future a lot more. So look forward to that one and all the people that have interacted with us. But we're back, and I'm recording this intro, it is February 12th, and I believe, there's a lot of things happening in Florida and Arizona right now. Well, our guest that we recorded this a week ago, is busy today because he's going back to work as we got Billy Boyer, the minor league field and infield coordinator for the Detroit Tigers organization. And just like any conversation you've heard from Billy, it never disappoints. So we're excited to bring you part one with Coach. Good luck to him as they kick off their season in spring training right now. I know that it's about 4 degrees here in Ellensburg as he's probably in 70 and getting to coach some baseball, which I know that we're all just so fired up. As the rest of us are just weeks away to get our high school seasons underway. College guys are, if you've already kicked off or the Division Ones are kicking off this weekend, I can't wait to watch some baseball on TV. So that's enough for me. Let's go ahead. Actually, let's talk about our sponsors real quick. Big shout out to our sponsors. Safeguard out of the Tri-Cities. For anybody that was at the clinic, we had a table, man, of a lot of cool stuff. We even had some people buy some things, and that'll be on a website soon that you can purchase. And there was a lot of cool things that they've made for us. So big thanks to them. Max BP, go check them out. They were at the clinic, had all their stuff, gave away some free shirts to everybody in attendance. And big thanks for them to coming back on for a second year. Top Tier Sports, if you're still looking for some summer tournaments, check them out. They might have some openings. I don't know. Got to go check those guys out. And back with us after a great weekend of talking to him and his family. It's always a family company and a family affair when they come to the clinic here in Ellensburg or anything alone. Devo Bats, go check them out for your fungos. If your kid needs a wood bat for this summer, go check out Devo Bats. Go to devobats.com. All right, now it's time to bring on Billy Boyer. Hey, Pacific Northwest Fungo Banner fans. We're back with our next guest for this season as we start to wrap this thing up for the year. We're fired up to have back on the podcast again, Coach Billy Boyer, the minor league field and infield coordinator. If I got that right, Coach.
That's correct.
Welcome back to the podcast.
That's good to be back. Thanks for having me, guys.
We are excited you took time because I know we're all freezing and you're about not to be freezing.
Yeah, I just checked the weather down there. It's 83 degrees down there right now. So leave the 33 for the 83.
I'm going to be thinking that sounds awesome. Well, it's been a little bit since we had you on. Get us caught back up. What's new in Billy Boyer's life?
Yeah, so kind of a back and forth, I guess, for a job a little bit. So I was with the Tigers back, I think, last time we talked, and then went to the University of Washington for one season under Jason Kelly, and then got called back by the Tigers and had the opportunity to go back as the minor league field coordinator. And it's just a job that I couldn't say no to, and an opportunity to kind of push me in other areas, not necessarily just being about being on the field, but some more admin and more leadership type role. And it's provided me with an opportunity to kind of showcase different skill sets of mine and put me back on the professional side, which is really where I wanted to be.
Talk about that time at Washington. You guys had a couple pretty good teams, a couple good players. You still in contact with some of those guys? And
yeah, definitely.
What kind of involvement you have there?
Yeah, I still talk to quite a few of the guys, especially the guys that are in professional baseball. The Cam Claytons of the world, the Kobe Moraleses, the Will Simpsons. Those guys all got drafted that year on the position player side. I do get a chance to cross paths with those guys occasionally on the road and see them down in spring training. Kobe specifically with the Yankees, so we see him quite a bit. But yeah, I'm in contact with those guys. I kind of, for the most part, let them do their thing, but every once in a while, something will pop and we'll shoot a text here and there and stay connected. And, and I still connected with a handful of the guys that are still on the team currently too. With social media now, the UW does a lot of pretty cool things that they throw out on social media. And, Colin Blanchard did a cribs thing of the cages, I think yesterday. And, so shoot him a text and just say, hey man, it's good to see you doing your thing. And, I just check in here and there and kind of stay connected with those guys as much as I can.
With going from, your college pro ball and you went back to college for a year and you're back to pro ball, was there something, everybody's always said something, a guy told me one time he went and coached for a couple of years and went back to playing and how much he learned being a coach. Is there a correlation to that as in going back and forth from the pro to the college game and fine tuning your craft?
Yeah, for sure. One thing for me, in the professional side, is I've always been a coordinator. So I've never been an affiliate staff member. So I've always never been an on-field staff member, coaching in the game. So my job as a coordinator is to kind of overlook our infield play and kind of set up our systematic approach to things, communication between staff and players, and then just overall general infield play kind of across the org. Going back to the college side, it really provided me with an opportunity to kind of scratch the itch, back coaching hitters, back coaching more of the overall arching themes of the game, more base running, more team defense, coaching third base every night, running the offense. So it kind of allowed me to scratch my itch on that front. But I really think the professional game for me it's not. In the college game, it's between 4 and 5 or 6 coaches that it's a pretty tight knit group, and there's not a lot of expanding off of that. In the professional side, we have so many staff members, and there's a lot of different perspectives. So I find myself specifically on the pro side, just having more impactful conversations that different thought process. There's just so many different minds, and it's not just in the infield space, it's in the outfield space. It's in the catching space and how those can correlate over. But really, I spent a lot of time, with the pitching group. Honestly, just the advances they've made and the understanding of the throwing world, and how that can help us correlate over to throwing a baseball in the infield space. Those conversations are, or vice versa. They might say something that doesn't correlate, and it helps us hammer down certain things that we may have been teaching that we might change our mind on now. So I just find myself having significantly more impactful conversations on the pro side, just because of the size of the group and the minds that are kind of coming from all different places. And then the way that we hire our staffs, the pitching coach isn't just the pitching coach. There's the mechanics guy, there's the biomechanic guy, there's the sports science, there's the numbers guy. They hit kind of expertise in different areas, so they all have kind of different thoughts, and we do the same thing in the hitting space and then across the defensive space as well. So I kind of find myself really attracted to the professional game simply because I feel like I have an opportunity to learn more, just based on the information and the amount of staff and players that were around. It's not 25 guys, it's 165 guys.
Billy, on the communication side as a coach, how much detail do you give comparable to, the college to the pro? I mean, these guys are professional athletes. They're making millions of dollars. They know how to play the game. They got in there for a reason. So what similarities and difference do you have in your communication?
Yeah. One thing I tell people all the time is like, it's still an 18 to 24-year-old, right? Like it's still a college player versus a AA player. They're in the same age range for the most part. I think it's important to think about, like, never assume that they don't know and never assume that they know. Like it's both, right? Like they're way smarter than we give them credit for. And sometimes they don't know, like, and that they need the information. So I think in the professional side, you got to be a little bit more open-minded to the conversation, where in the college side, I think it's pretty common to see it's a little bit more, this is how I want you to do it. And in the professional side, there's a little bit more give and take. Like, you better have a why. And I think that's true on the college side now. Like, the players there's just so much more information out there that they are privy to. But definitely on the professional side, if you got a guy that's been in professional baseball for 5 or 6 years, he's in AAA or has big league time, like, you have to be able to have some feel with that conversation and like provide them with information, but also be able to take their information and kind of work together and collaborate a plan together. It's not just, hey, I need you to do X, Y, or Z. You have to be really open to their thoughts, because, a lot of times they're pretty aware of what they're trying to do and what they want to do. And then, that balanced with our approach of how the information that we want to get them, we try to just collaborate with them as closely as we can.
I could imagine the relationship is a big proponent, the trust factor, right? I mean, we see it on the high school level, of course. If that athlete doesn't think you much care, the information that you're sharing, this is going to go through one ear out the other, So, I mean, how important is that? I mean, and comfortability too, knowing when to say the right information at the right time.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that relationship piece, I think that's true across all fronts. I mean, if you're coaching a 7-year-old, he better feel comfortable, or he or she better feel comfortable to approach you, to ask you a question, or to listen to things. It's not any different. Like, the relationship piece is absolutely crucial. We talk a lot about in our staff meetings about, like, collecting coins with players. They're dropping coins all the time, and like, we want to pick those up and help find a way to, like, relay that message to somebody else. Either one of them got married or just had a baby, or had a tragedy in the family or something, and they might be a little off that day. Like, we try to share that within our staff to help our coaches all have a pretty good feel of where that player's headspace might be that day. Obviously, with 165 players, you can't do that with every single guy, but we do the best we can to try to have a pretty good feel. And then we're really proactive in our phone calling, specifically in the off season. So we do have a dead period now in professional baseball. There's like a 6-week dead period where we can't contact guys. But as soon as the season ends, we start kind of weekly call list. And then after the first of the year, we kind of kick those back up. So we're really heavily kind of not only communicating with them, but like checking in on them, how things are going. And then we have ways to communicate that to our organization that help us kind of all stay on top of, a very large number of players.
Well, that, like, data collection side of things, and you and I talked quite a bit. I know when you were at Washington, you mentioned that in pro ball, you have like a person to do every single one of those things, right? And in college, there's so much more freedom. A head coach is going to set what he wants to do, and then the assistants do that. And you might have a lot of freedom, which I know you did at Washington, to do what you wanted. But, how is that balance of, if I want to work on, different scouting reports, or, biomechanics of a player, like different areas that we talk about that have a specific person in pro ball, like, how do you view that now, doing both as like a pick and choose, like choosing what the best thing is to use for a college player compared to a pro player, knowing that the work that gets put into it, because you don't want to half-ass something, right? Like, if you're going to do something, you got to be all in and make sure it works out. But maybe talk about that if you were to go back to college now, having seen both sides, like, or even high school, you know, using data properly based on the time constraints that you have.
Yeah, first of all, I think if you're not using data, then you're really missing out. Like if you have the capability of tracking certain things, then you should definitely be doing that to either help confirm or deny your teach points. Like, and that's the hard part's the deny point, right? Like when you're teaching something and a player's getting worse, you know, so it could be pitch shape, it could be pitch velocity, it could be swing speed, it could be the ability for a player to stay connected through a swing using blast sensor motion or blast sensors, all those things. Like if you're not doing those things, like, and you have the capability to do them, you should definitely be doing them, in my opinion. Obviously, when we were at UW, we were doing the best we could to use as much data as we possibly could to help our players. Part of that is, one, I believe it helps us make better decisions as coaches, but two, a part of our job is to get these guys to the next level. Like we want to make them professional players. And if we can get them to a place where they're not only comfortable with the information that they're going to see at the professional level in the amount of information, but also the way that it's typically presented to players, which every organization is a little bit different. And it's ever evolving, but I kind of took the approach that I want to overload them with as much data information as possible, specifically on the hitting front for me. And we did it on the pitching front as well. But on the hitting front, you know, we were using TrackMan, we were using Blast, we were using a number of different pieces of technology that helped us understand not only batted ball profiles, but swing characteristics that we could make adjustments. The hard part in the college space and when you get all this is you got to be careful what you ask for, right? Because more information typically means more problems. And that means more problems that you have to solve in a very limited amount of time. And with the coaching constraints too, where there's only, 4 or 5 guys on staff, or in some scenarios, only 3 guys on staff, you find yourself in this 1 on 24 or 1 on 20 to 24 hitters ratio. And it's really challenging to find ways to use that data in a productive way for the players in an individualized plan. So what we ended up doing is we started kind of bucketing players specifically in the hitting space. And, if it was this guy struggled with plane scores, or this guy struggled with pitch rec, or this guy struggled with rotational acceleration, or whatever it might be, then we would kind of prescribe those groups. We'd put those guys into groups, and then our drill packages would be kind of separate for the groups. And then inside of that, we would have more individualized conversations as the days went on through BP and stuff, and our practices. But on the professional side, like we have full teams doing this stuff, like, and it's and we don't have time constraints, right? We have the capability of grabbing a player one-on-one early, and spending an hour with that player if we wanted to. We don't do that a ton in season, but it does happen. And you just think about the length of the season and then how many games there are, right? So we have just way more opportunities to provide our guys with information and opportunities to not only see the information, but to how to use it to find the path forward for the best route to success. So I do think if you're not using it, and you don't need, a blast motion sensor is, $150, and they're pretty inexpensive, and they give you great data. They give you great data into the inside of a swing. And if you're not using them, I think you should seriously consider it at your high schools or colleges or wherever. They're very, very inexpensive, easy pieces of equipment to use.
There's drill sets too that came off of those. Those were the best. It's really easy. It shows a deficiency, and then they have a sheet of drills that guy can work on his deficiency. So absolutely, you don't have to learn something, right? You just have to have some feel of a drill and whatnot. Sorry, Jason, what you had?
Oh, I was just going to add that, those blast motions, I mean, if you got a coach out there that's wondering to do it or not, like you're saying, Billy, I mean, it's trying to convince a guy that his plane's off and then getting him on there. And it's whoa, it's the wow factor, right? Okay, now I see it. Now I'll make those adjustments, because that's always seems to be the hardest part. It's like being called out on something that we're not doing correctly, and we're going to be adamant that we're doing it the right way, right? No matter whoever, what level you're at, until you see it, then you realize, like, okay, now the wheels are spinning. Now I'm needing to make the adjustments. Now you start to see the results and those kind of things. And so, if a coach has got some extra funds in their, baseball account, absolutely. I mean, they are game changers for sure.
They absolutely are. And the other thing too is, like, just because a player's swings path or his plane is not ideal doesn't mean he's a bad hitter or a good hitter. Like, just because he's on plane for a long time doesn't mean he's a good hitter. Like, it just helps you understand more about your player and the either the strengths or the deficiencies of their swings, right? Like, it gives you insight into the way that you could train that player in better environments that may lend him to better success on the field. That's all it is. Like, and it doesn't matter. Like, I know we're talking about Blast right now, and it's, it's $150 unit or whatever, but if it's TrackMan or, which is a significantly more expensive, it's just ball data. It's just telling you what the ball's doing, right? Like, and when you tell a player to change a grip in a pitch or whatever, it moves less, like, that's a bad teach. It just helps you, like I said earlier, like, confirm or deny your teach points with players and get you to the path of growth, like, faster, if you're willing to, like, look at it that way.
No, for sure. That's good.
What kind of data stuff are you guys into? Talk us through the stuff on the infield space. Like, what are you guys tracking? Maybe as you guys get into spring training, like, what are some key kind of pieces that you're looking at within your players? I know a lot of the data you use is maybe for positioning and how guys are moving, but it's the individual player that you're evaluating. Like, what type of resources are you using to monitor those guys as you get into training?
Yeah, so this type of like, with our defensive positioning stuff, again, we have teams that are supplying us with where to play on the field, where to shift. In professional baseball, there's pretty systematic approaches to the way that teams move their defenses. What we do, and is not uncommon to us. I think there's a lot of people doing this out there at all levels, but this is a piece of data that doesn't cost anything. You just need a camera, right? A high home, like, attached to the fence. Like, we track every single movement that our infielders make. So every single morning, I watch every single competitive touch of every infielder in our organization. And we track things such as which direction they move. Was the ball hit at them within kind of the box? Was it hit to their left or their right? We track how they caught it. Did they catch it two-handed, one-handed, or backhanded? We track their throw locations. Was it, we kind of break it down into 8 different throw locations, kind of above the waist, inside the frame, below the waist, and then kind of build a parameter outside of that. We track if they caught it clean or not. We track if what their foot patterns were post-catch. Did they throw it on the run? Did they set their feet and one shuffle or two shuffle? Did they throw it on one step, which a ball that kind of holds you back? And then what that allows us to do is, like, build out these really robust pictures of our players. So it's like, when a player's struggling on a backhand, it'll flag us and it'll say, okay, he's only catching the ball, 85% clean on the backhand side. Well, now we have to do an even deeper dive. Which style of backhand was it? And we have the capability of doing that. I've over the course of my career, have had the chance to build a pretty decently built out system that allows us to have really clean looks into what our defensive players are doing, which directions, which play types, which play styles. And then, like, when I go to them, I can sit them down. Now, again, remember, players are really used to seeing numbers now and data that I can sit them down. We can look at a computer screen. We can talk about it. We can pull video and look at it on the computer screen and talk about whatever that deficiency might be at the time, and then go out to the dirt and have a really productive 15 to 20 minute session. That's really focused on one specific play style. It's double play turns, it's double play feeds, it's backhand play, it's throwing on the run, it's whatever. But if you're guessing, and this is what, got me into trouble early in my career, is I've been tracking for the better part of the last decade. But most of the tracking I was doing in game, in moment, like just trying to write it down as fast as I could. And all of us coaches know how fast things actually happen, and if you're managing and you're running a defense, you're trying to write it down so fast, but you're also trying to stay engaged in the game that you're just writing down what you think you saw. The capability of going back on video and slowing it down or watching it multiple times is you get a really detailed look into what actually happened. And that just has led us down this path of like this crazy individualized ability to focus my time when I come into town to see a specific player. My time spent then is very productive. We're not wasting time of what do you want to work on, or let's do this today, and risk the chance that it's not actually an area that he needs to grow. So I think like it's pretty simple process. It's pen and paper or a computer, it's Excel spreadsheets or whatever, however you want to do it. But I think it's by far the most important thing you should be doing in the infield space right currently, in my opinion. Like it just allows us to have just such a much deeper look into what our players are actually doing and what the game is demanding out of them. Because what we can also do is we can pull all the plays from not the entire season, and it'll tell us, if the shortstops, they backhand the ball, in the 30% range. And now we know that we need to practice, backhands at least 30% of the time. But what we do is we just hit ground balls right at our shortstops and, have them catch, because that's the one that really matters, is that kind of that 80%er and above. But, we have to have other play styles off of that. So it allows you to create more versatile practice plans because you have an idea of what the game actually demands your players and what they need to do.
Does that initially start out with sitting down with the player, showing the film, and then saying, hey, this is what we're seeing. Now let's go out, spend 15, 20 minutes. Let's work on that.
Yeah, exactly. So what I typically will do is sit them down and I'll have kind of it planned out. I'll have, 10 or 15 different videos I want to pull. I'll pull them, we'll watch them, say, hey, what do you notice? What are the commonalities of these 15 different plays, or what were you feeling? And we'll kind of have a conversation based around that. And then I'll kind of throw the ball into their court. How would you like to approach this? How do we want to move forward with addressing what we believe is an issue? Or there's an area of growth. Issue is probably a poor choice of words with a player, but like, how can we make this better? Right. Yeah. And we'll have a conversation, and then we'll go hit the dirt, and we'll have a 15 or 20 minute session and be really diligent and focused on that specific play style, or technique or whatever it might be. And then, by doing it, talking about it the player coach communication on the field now just skyrockets, right? And a lot of it's player driven, because you've talked about something, a specific play style that you would like them to try, and then they do it and they feel something that's different and they kind of light up and like, I felt it, like that felt good. And it just allows that conversation to be a lot cleaner.
Now entering from the bullpen,
well, that ends part one with Billy Boyer, the minor league field and infield coordinator for the Detroit Tigers, as he kicks off his spring training today as the day we release this. Good luck to Coach and the Tigers and everybody out there starting their professional spring training this week. Man, I'm so excited to hear some baseball, turn on MLB Network and watch some people from warmer weather getting some baseball in. So that's pretty exciting. We're just weeks away for the high school guys here in the Northwest kicking off. College guys are all underway and getting this thing going. So I think we can all agree that we're excited that baseball's back. Again, thanks to everybody that came to Ellensburg last weekend for the Washington State Baseball Coaches Association. It was a lot of fun getting to see everybody and talk to everybody. Just one of my favorite weekends of the year. We'll be on Super Bowl weekend again next year in Ellensburg, so keep a lookout for the signups and all the speakers coming out for that. We'll get that out sooner this year. Thank you to Safeguard. Thank you to Top Tier, Max BP, and Devo Bats. Go check out our sponsors. And we will be back next week with part 2 with Billy Boyer from the Detroit Tigers.